Dr. Roy Chan, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to have you. You are the founder and director of Cloaks and Mirrors,
Yes.
therapeutical practice here in Singapore. For those in the audience who may not know you or may not be familiar with your work, who are you and what do you focus on?
So I'm a doctoral level clinical psychologist, and I work with adults on all sorts of different issues: depression, anxiety, work stress, moving abroad, generational challenges, and also love, sex, and relationships. That's what I do.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's a super interesting name, Cloaks and Mirrors, is kind of the first thing that I noticed.
Yeah.
Um, and so I guess taking the first part of it, right? Cloaks, like describe how that informs your practice. Um, and maybe, yeah, I guess how does this show up in expats or sort of your globally mobile clientele?
So the thing is, I chose the name Cloaks and Mirrors because I was just trying to showcase what mental health is, where sometimes things that people are uncomfortable with facing or talking about, they keep it close, their subconscious. And in therapy, we kind of hold a metaphorical mirror and they start to see their blind spots and what has been left underneath. So it's this process of covering and uncovering that. So you're saying, what are the common cloaks that people start?
Yeah, like but especially people who might have, be moving and they don't expect, right? Or they find things that they're sort of hiding or keeping away from people. What's a pattern that you've noticed?
I think one of the biggest patterns that I noticed is having this cloak that they got everything under control. That they have, they are thriving well in their new environment. Um, that they are happy, that they do not have any sort of worries. People have all sorts of different worries. For some people it might be loneliness. For some people it might be anxiety because it's a new environment and they don't quite know where do they find a space in the environment. There's a lack of familiarity. It's not a bad thing. It's just a process of finding out who can they trust, who can they not trust, things like that. Uh, yeah, all together while trying to do what they need to do, their work, their studies, or anything like that.
It's
Keep it
super,
together.
yeah, it's super interesting that you say that because I remember the first place that I really moved internationally abroad
Yeah.
to was Paris.
All right.
And I, Paris is beautiful,
Yeah.
and I think so many people, they talk about vacationing to Paris and how nice the city is.
Yeah.
But obviously, I had my own struggles when I was there.
Yeah.
But I don't know if invalidate is the right word, but I sort of convinced myself that there was nothing to complain about because my God, look where I am, and everyone wants to travel here, and I feel so lucky to live here. And so I sort of, maybe minimized, right? Or like you said, sort of like pretended like everything was okay
Yeah.
for that first bit. So I guess like why do people do that? Especially, expats when they first get to a new place.
I think for different reasons. For some people it would be because they're going with their spouse and they just want to keep things under control so that their spouse can focus on why they are in the country in the first place on their work. They want to be supportive. For other people, it's they were sent in to work a certain role, to do a certain job, and they just want to do it well, right? They want to thrive, and everything else feels a bit like a distraction, kind of pushing their feelings aside. Yeah, but I'm not trying to say that people do not totally ignore them. It's just that on the surface things seem okay, but in their private moments, that's where sometimes they will talk about it. There's also a comparison between people who have friends, people who seem well adjusted, and people who are still a little new to the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a comparison of trying to feel well adjusted as well.
Yes, yes, there's definitely that pressure, I think. Talk to me a little bit about the mirrors part of the practice. What, how does that inform your approach?
The idea of mirrors come from the idea of a hall of mirrors where people see reflections of themselves in other people around them, and they very quickly begin to see what they agree with, what they do not agree with. So even if they are from the same country, for example, they might start to see elements of life that they would want to take part in, take parts they would not want to take part in. Yeah. So, for example, for some people, they might want to explore more of the local life and what's happening locally, while other people might want to stay within, their own groups because they feel most comfortable there. It's also really depends on whether someone is looking to stay for the long term or someone's looking to stay for like a short stay.
Mm, yeah.
So I think that's the mirrors part of things. Sometimes people do compare what's happening with their life back home, their friends back home that
Yeah.
they left behind, and it gets more and more pronounced as the years go by.
What do you mean by that? More and more pronounced comparison.
Mm, for example, like it could be all sorts of things. It could be like a respect for a person's personal space, a respect for a person's opinions, whether um, somebody feels inclined to go with the group or not. And different cultures, different countries have different practices. And so the differences become more and more stark, and people start to either miss it or they start to avoid it,
Oh, I see.
depending on which side of the fence they're on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know you work a lot with intimacy, especially between couples.
Yeah.
How do you think that sort of impermanence, affects particularly your expat clients, right? I'm thinking about those that, you know, if you're in your home country, you have a routine, things are
Yeah.
very stable. You move
Yeah.
to a new place, all of a sudden everything is different. So, um, yeah, I guess what are some patterns that you see for your expat clients when it comes to intimacy and moving?
Like both partners coming together or one left behind.
Oh, both. That's actually interesting. I hadn't considered the one left behind, but yeah, maybe talk about both.
Both scenarios.
Both scenarios. Yeah.
All right. So the thing is, for both who are coming together, I think sometimes the challenge is that one person had to give up certain opportunities. In most scenarios, one partner is the one that gets the job offer
Mm.
of their choice, of their dreams.
Right.
The other one is coming because they want to accompany their partner and they just have to try to find something. Maybe they had to give up a role that they like, come. Some people, based on their status, are not allowed to work as well,
Right.
right? So there's a lot of grief, there's a lot of a loss of identity, yeah, and coming.
Yeah.
And then coupled with like a new environment, sometimes where they do not have any friends, they don't have any social networks, and they can get pretty lonely.
Very isolating.
Yeah, isolated.
So that in those cases where, the couple moves together
Yeah,
and the trailing spouse maybe doesn't have that, sort of career
yeah.
or something set up yet, you notice a loss of intimacy, or did they become tighter because of that, closer?
Um, I think in terms of emotional intimacy or sexual intimacy, I think it's really a whole different subject between the couple, right? It's whether they are able to talk about it. But I would say that the loss of identity, it's a lot stronger. The loss of routine, and people just have to really look for ways to create some sort of activity look forward to in their lives. It could be going to a certain place for coffee, going to a yoga class, right? Rather than kind of just staying at home. Yeah.
it's sort of stewing in. Yeah.
Yeah, with the dog or something.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's also trust, safety, and also interest. Like sometimes people are looking out to see what they are really interested in doing, and it's hard to know suddenly.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to be a tourist to go through to all the different attractions, but to find a place for themselves, it's slightly more tricky.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. So that's the trailing spouse scenario. What about long distance?
All right, so the long distance, it's also a really difficult situation. I think it really depends on whether, first of all, it depends on whether there's an end date to the long distance relationship.
Mm.
Like, there's a couple gonna come back together, and like for how long as well? Are we talking about months, or are we talking about years? And it makes that distance a lot more painful. I think a lot of people are trying to make a long distance relationship work, but I think one of the biggest stresses is a recognition that there's, on some level, the death of a relationship.
Interesting. What do you mean by that?
Right? It means in a relationship, it's not just the conversations, but the everyday activities, like kind of eating together, uh, playing a game together, watching a show together, right? And talking in real time. Even even you could count like gossiping about friends. It could be. It is also something that's done in a relationship. But when people start to have their separate lives, there's less and less, or rather, there are elements that do not quite intersect anymore. And so it's very subtle, because people would say, oh, I'm still talking to my partner. And it is, we still fly around and we meet each other. But there are certain elements that it's faded away. I think same as friendships. For friendships where hang out with them every day versus you see them once a month, there's a difference in the level of
Yeah.
emotional intimacy.
Yeah.
So likewise for couples.
Well, it's very interesting, sort of acknowledging the ending of a certain relationship.
Yeah.
When you move abroad, and then accepting the newer version of it. So I think another thing, maybe this is more of a general question, right? Is the idea that when someone moves abroad, it might trigger traumas. I know you work a lot with
Yeah.
PTSD, attachment wounds, etc., that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Have you noticed in your practice maybe a particular type of expat profile that tends to, you know, discover or have lots of wounds triggered by this move? Is it just everybody? Or
Um, I wouldn't say it's a typical expat profile, but I would say that it's more, or that moving is particularly traumatic. I think it's slightly different. Okay, so what I observe is that people uh, moving abroad, been on their own, being away from their country of origin, it gives people the space to think about their history, their family, their childhood, and stuff like that. That they may not have had the chance to think about, or they may not have been as comfortable to think about, because being immersed in the environment, they have to deal with their families, and we do uh, protect ourselves to some extent.
yeah,
Right? Sometimes we just do not think too much because it is protective.
yeah,
That's what we're gonna do the information after we thought about it. And so it gives people a chance to think about unhappiness, think about things that they would have wanted to be done better in their histories, and to work through it, so that when they actually do, and this is something that takes months, it takes a couple of years, when they finally do meet with their families, over the time, they're able to take the relationship to a different level. They are able to look beneath the grievances and maybe see other parts of the relationship that they might have means the warmer parts of the relationship.
Mm.
I'm not ignoring the grievances. They know that the grievances are there, but it's looking at it together,
Right.
the good and the bad.
And this very interesting because like a move or relocation is a very natural time to come back up to 10,000 feet and sort
Yeah.
of view the relationship, your
Yeah.
values, your life. So one of the we were talking earlier about there's I think a very strong sort of corporate business sort of expat culture here in
Yeah.
Singapore.
Yeah.
And I've heard from many of my friends that they feel sort of a very strong pressure to succeed.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you've noticed in your practice, you know, um, early signs of burnout, right,
Yeah.
or self isolation, or yeah, things that just keep recurring in your clients that you would advise people watch out for.
Definitely. I think that sometimes people would be kind of looking to perform their best, but when it starts to go into the territory of like skipping meals,
Mm,
having sleep difficulties,
yeah.
um, using alcohol to sleep, because they not because it's a bad habit, but not because they because they feel that they just cannot turn their minds off. They're sort of self-medicating.
Right.
It becomes an issue. For other people, it is about trying to make themselves stronger. So, so for some men, they would be spending a lot of time in the gym, working out,
Okay.
at this kind of to build more capacity for more strength
Oh, that's interesting because
and stamina, right?
yeah, I associate that with like general self improvement and sort of protective for mental health. But you're saying maybe there's a point where it
Uh,
goes too far.
yeah, too far.
Okay.
And uh, yeah, I think for general health is good, but for some people it become they have their work, and they are so really obsessed with like exercise and their diet, so that they become more cut, more, and it's all about building capacity. But so what's being played out over here is they're not quite aware that they are getting burnt out.
Oh, I see. So it's sort of like an addiction in another format, right? This obsession with maybe looking good or looking strong,
Yeah,
and in the process they're
looking successful.
right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
which is what we talked about at the beginning.
yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting.
And then I think it's very subtle. It creeps out on people, and also it's because for a lot of people who are really high achieving, they they were they were they were also pushing themselves equally as hard in school, right? So the thing about school is that that does not quite apply to their current lives, is that for school, whatever that you do, there's an end date, there's an end of a semester, there's a holiday after that. But for and maybe it's worked so many years for them. But then when people are working, it becomes a marathon. There isn't quite an end date. And that's where people burn out, when they are sprinting at that kind of pace
Right, no rest.
and feeling that they have to hit those standards all the time.
Yeah, and I also wonder if this ties into one of the questions that we had talked about earlier, the sense of identity when you move abroad, because I think particularly the type of profile that maybe comes to Singapore, as you mentioned, they're on a 2-year employment visa or something like that. Again, they see themselves through their career. They've been trained maybe
Yeah.
through school or some other, position in the workplace to be this sort of striving person. And so I guess, when someone relocates, right, there's this general sense of who am I now that I'm in a new location? There's an opportunity to reassess. Um, so I guess, yeah, how would you think about that?
I think it's not just. I think there's also social pressure as well, because I mean it's most obvious, like during networking sessions, right? People talk, people should exchange their cards, and then some people would judge and decide not to talk to this person anymore,
Mm,
right? If they are
sure.
they are too junior, or they are not, it's just not somebody you want to talk to. So people are judged based on what they do, their jobs,
It's
and
quite
they
cutthroat.
get that sort of social feedback.
Yeah.
And I guess it's more difficult. Somebody's an expert, because they do not have the same friends and family ties and even if they do not have friends and family ties, for someone who's local, it could be the familiarity with the environment, places where they feel comfortable, where places they feel they can relax.
Yeah.
That provides a buffer.
Yeah. Totally. Well, we're at our last question.
Yeah.
Dr. Chan, I want to ask you,
You can just call me Roy.
Roy.
Yeah.
So I know you moved to Hong Kong,
Yeah.
and had your own sort of expat journey before.
Yeah.
So if you had to look back, to the Roy of that time,
Yeah.
and you were to write a letter to him, what would you include in that letter?
I think I'll definitely say I think first thing, eat all the food, eat as much as you want.
It's very important.
Because the ones in Singapore is not the same as the original ones.
That's good. Yeah.
But also I think talk to more people. Talk to more people in different areas of life, from the food places to the bars to the games that people play, because they are going to be very unique conversations, and you're going to learn a lot about people and about life in general. A lot of yeah, because they contribute a lot. They contributed a lot to the ease that I have in talking to lots of different people and hearing lots of different stories.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best parts about moving abroad, I think, is the people that you meet, conversations that you're able to have. It really expands your worldview.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crucial.
Just to see how people think, and also kind of see the more human side to people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And also to the extent that after a while when you read the news, you feel like, that's just too simplistic of an explanation of this whole situation.
That's right. There's
Like, it can never be
nuance.
covered in news.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's good. Well, thank you, Roy. Thank
No
you so much
worries,
for,
no
for
worries.
sharing your time and your expertise with us today. I really appreciate it.
No worries, no worries.